called VidGo. VidGo gives you the freedom to be entertained at a price you can afford. VidGo has all of my favorite live sports networks. They have a great choice of news. All of that for $50.
What is the FBI looking for? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
This is just more political persecution of Donald J. Trump.
His son Eric on Fox after the raid at the former president's Florida home while he was in New York City. Fox's Ashley Webster is at Mar-a-Lago.
All of this is part of the investigation into whether President Trump took classified documents from the White House when he left the office. This goes back to what's called the Presidential Records Act. The National Archives Department, they looked through some boxes that were taken from Mar-a-Lago earlier this year, back in January and February, and said, wait a minute, there are some classified documents in here. Now, Donald Trump has said all along that he's cooperated and that nothing was done underhandedly, and he says he gave whatever he was supposed to give.
The former president calls it prosecutorial misconduct, an assault, and corrupt, led by Democrats who don't want him to run again in 2024. And then he released a campaign-like video on his Truth social media app.
Americans kneel to God and God alone, and it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
The White House says it was not told about the FBI raid in advance. President Biden was in Kentucky at the time surveying flood damage in an area where at least 37 people were killed.
I promise you, we're staying, the federal government along with the state and county and the city, we're staying until everybody's back to where they were.
Another life in prison sentence for Travis and Greg McMichael, this time in federal court on hate crimes charges. The two men also convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery, a black man they shot while he was out jogging, claiming they thought he was a robber. Greg apologized in court. Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, then said,
I think now that he realized that he made some horrible decisions back in February. Unfortunately, his apology doesn't bring back my son, but I do accept the apology.
William Bryan got 35 years in prison. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 6:03. Robinson saves you time, currently 70 degrees. We'll see scattered thunderstorms, but then partly sunny skies today, a high of 84. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. The Highway Patrol has identified the reported missing man who drowned north of Columbia over the weekend. Authorities recovered the body of Michael Smith of St. Louis yesterday at around 8:30 a.m. Smith had been reported missing while fishing at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area Sunday afternoon. Authorities say he was fishing with two friends who had left to make a run into town, then got back and couldn't find him. Investigators don't suspect foul play right now. Smith was 61 years old. Columbia has narrowed its search for a new fire chief to 3 finalists. The city announced yesterday that it is considering Brian Dunn, Chris Riley, and Clayton Farr Jr. for the position. Dunn has served as the fire chief in San Angelo, Texas for 21 years. Riley has been chief in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, Colorado, and has more than 40 years of firefighter experience. Farr has served many roles in the Columbia Fire Department since 1998. Columbia's fire department has been without a full-time chief since February when Andy Woody left the job for a new job in Arkansas. There will be a meet and greet with the finalists at City Hall on Monday the 22nd. Stephon Fountain will appear in court today. He's the St. Joseph man facing first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse after his infant daughter's death in Columbia in 2017. Fountain and the girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, were both arrested in June after a major lead in the case. Fountain is accused of killing his 4 to 5 month old daughter, Simone Daniels, and hiding her body. Authorities found her remains behind McKnight Tire on North Providence in 2019. Fountain is expected in court at 1:30 this afternoon. President Biden approves Missouri's disaster declaration for recent flooding in St. Louis.
The declaration makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and even some health expenses. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across St. Louis and the area July 26, then hit again 2 days later as residents were still recovering. The Weather Service said the rain that began on July 26 was the most prolific in the St. Louis metro area since records began in 1874. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
The president of Missouri's largest general farm organization says farmers and ranchers are resilient despite dealing with high costs and severe weather. Many Missouri farmers are battling the drought, while some have received historic flooding. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says energy and fertilizer costs are also hurting agriculture.
We think about inflationary pressure on energy, on food, etc. We as farmers and ranchers are consumers too, and this will be the most expensive crop probably that has ever gone in the ground, just because inputs have been just through the roof in price.
Governor Parson says there's at least $35 million in damage to uninsured infrastructure and emergency response costs that were incurred during the flooding. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce is opposing Congress's new $750 billion legislation, saying it would put a huge tax burden on business. A spokesperson for the chamber says almost half of the new tax load would come down on manufacturing businesses. Supporters of the bill said it would ensure that wealthier businesses pay their fair share. The U.S. Senate passed the Inflation Reduction Act over the weekend. It's estimated to provide $700 billion in funding over 10 years, which would mostly go toward climate investment and health care. 93.9 The Eagle News with Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to AIRESERV.com. It's 6:06. No baseball for the Cardinals or Royals today. Both teams had scheduled off days. The Cardinals will try to extend their win streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Miles Michaelis will pitch for St. Louis. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado received an accolade for his recent performance. He was named National League Player of the Week after batting .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won NL Player of the Week. The Royals start off a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. And Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The Columbia-based team will take on Del Mar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Little League Softball World Series. Sports with Service Master Clean of Columbia. If you have fire, water, or mold damage, tell your insurance agent you want the master of disaster with the big yellow van. Adam Kinzer with ServiceMasterofColumbia.com. It's 6:08. Right now, 70 degrees. With MidboHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidboHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. No wrecks to speak of at the moment. Major highways look good, 70 and 63. Columbia and Jefferson City don't see any major backups at the moment. Let us know if you see one, though, today, 874-9390 with a call or a text. Again, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
Former president himself confirming that the FBI has executed a search warrant on his home in Palm Beach, Florida today. He said in a statement that his beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, of course, which became his primary residence after he left the White House, is, quote, currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large number of FBI agents. He says after working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate.
Quick fact check before we move forward. Maybe Andy and Hannah can get my back here. If you're raided by the feds or even by local authorities, whether it's Cole County or the Callaway County Sheriff's Department, they don't announce the raid first, do they? I'm just checking.
I think that's how it goes.
Most raids are unannounced.
I haven't been raided before, but I think that's how it goes.
I think the element of surprise is kind of the point there.
They don't pick up the phone and say, yeah, Mr. Smith, Callaway, it's Callaway County Sheriff's Department. Say, what do you say we come by and raid your place? About 2 this...
Today, good day? Is that it? Should we come back later?
2:30's, but all right. We'll see you about 2:30 for our unannounced raid. Trump's place in Mar-a-Lago raided yesterday, and apparently is what the feds are wanting here. And there's a lot of folks upset, and we're starting to see a trickle. I won't say it's loud, but even some Democrats are going, hey, we need to look at the power here of the Department of Defense, the FBI, the Department of Justice, people like that. So apparently yesterday they go into his place, Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and they're apparently looking for documents, including classified documents. And there's a key word here. I wish our attorney Stephanie Bell was here. She's going to be back tomorrow. And this, according to CNN, documents that may have been there. Now, if you're an attorney, you know anything about the law, you know how important in these situations words like that can be. May have been there. Apparently is what they're looking for. Whenever Trump was loading his stuff up, he hired some movers and said, hey, I got to move. I'm moving from the White House. I'm going to move down to Florida. I need to get some movers. So him and I guess little Barron and maybe even Don Jr., they're in there packing boxes, and they got the box tape, and they're packing stuff up. And some folks think, including the National Archives Association, think that Trump took some stuff out of the White House that he should not have taken, and they would like to have that stuff back. So finally they get a subpoena, and the feds, they go to Mar-a-Lago, Florida, and they don't announce their surprise raid. And they go in apparently looking for these documents. And they're looking for documents. Of course, there's other things facing Trump right now, who apparently is in short order. Of course, I think we've been saying this for almost a year and a half now, since those tragic events of January 20th, 2021. I think we've been saying this. It's a regular talking point here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Trump getting close to maybe announcing a run for presidency in 2024, but he's got a couple of things in front of him, including that BS January 6th committee hearing, which is made for TV. And the proof there is they have hired it's a television executive that's running those things. He used to be a big-time executive at ABC. He is the one who is putting on those January 6 hearings, trying to blame Trump for what happened on January 6. Trump is not responsible for the actions of those people. If I tell cousin Andy, hey, go up to the break time up there at 63 in Grindstone or wherever and go steal me a pack of Marlboro Reds, and Andy does it, is it my fault? No. It's Andy's fault. Andy wouldn't do that, by the way. And I don't smoke Marlboro Reds.
Yeah.
Marlboro Lights is my favorite. I don't smoke at all, by the way. I shouldn't even joke about that. So anyhow, a White House official. So what does the White House know? Remember Biden? He was the guy on January 20th, 2021. You know, it's all about unity.
Unity.
We're going to get together. We're going to mend. And we know he was lying because he has done absolutely nothing to show unity with his predecessor. Senior administration official says Joe Biden, he has no idea what's going on. And they had to clarify. They said, no, we know Joe doesn't know what's going on. Specifically, we're talking about this raid. Joe said, I don't know anything. So while this is going on, apparently they're going through various places in Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures. I haven't been there, but I've had several conversations with Congressman Billy Long, who ran for Senate. He's been there more than once, and he talks about this is not like just a mansion. This is, I think the way he has described it, it's like a complex. Guest houses, other buildings on this entire property. So it's a pretty massive area. But from what we are learning this morning, apparently authorities focus on several rooms where Trump apparently keeps his important stuff. Apparently the FBI even brought in a safecracker, which I didn't know that was a real thing. I thought that was something you see in cartoons in the movies. But the FBI has a safecracker, and that's somebody who, and I don't know how you do it. I remember being a 16-year-old kid in high school in St. Louis at Center for Management Law and Public Policy, and if I got jealous of my girlfriend because I thought she was seeing the kid who was an upperclassman, I'd go to her locker and try to do like I saw in the movies, you know, turn the lock. And
I remember that in the Italian Job, yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to hear where it clicks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't work. Not for me, at least. But
didn't have the right equipment.
Didn't have the right equipment, and I was 16 years old, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I wasn't looking for White House documents. I was looking for potential letters of love from an upperclassman to my girlfriend at the time. So they bring in this safecracker, and apparently it was a relatively new safe in Trump's home there at Mar-a-Lago. So this, and I don't know how much time it took, but and I don't know if they're using computers. Are they just listening? I don't know how that stuff works. I'm not smart enough to know the ins and outs of how those things kind of work. But I'm thinking if you're a safecracker, you're at Mar-a-Lago, you're at the guy's house who used to be one of the most polarizing and, in my opinion, one of the best presidents as far as the economy and as far as protecting ourselves from interest around the world, because we see what's happening now. Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine because of Joe's sloppy pullout of Afghanistan. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of NATO. So you're at the home of a former president, probably one of the greatest presidents, at least in my political lifetime, as Reagan aside there. And you're trying to crack this safe, and you're looking for documents from the White House to get yourself juiced up for work. Do you are you playing music in the background? How do you react to the news of this? Steve, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What's your reaction to this?
Oh, a little bit of humor, Brandon. Good morning.
Good morning, bud.
Love the show.
Thank you.
I think it's a little bit of silliness. It's obviously, to me, it looks a lot like just third world tin pot dictator nonsense. Kind of got a bit of a chuckle when they had their Geraldo moment, cracking the safe that had nothing in it. That was funny.
Steve, help remind me, because I got Hannah, my 22-year-old college grad, and Andy Humphrey, who's not as old as me. Can you explain the Geraldo? Was it he was looking in the safe Al Capone's vault, is what it was, wasn't it?
That's correct. Yeah, he was supposedly going to expose all the deep secrets in Al Capone's basement vault in a Chicago building, and I think maybe there were like 3 dust bunnies and a rat hanging out.
And I think you're exaggerating on the number of dust bunnies that were in there, Steve. But I do remember that. To take you back into the 80s, Geraldo Rivera, when he was a journalist and not a talking head on Fox, he did this big thing, Al Capone's vault. We've busted it. It was a huge live television event, and I remember a lot of folks were excited. What are we going to find in Al Capone's vault? And they opened it, and to Steve's memory, there was a rat and a couple of dust bunnies in there and nothing else. So, yeah, kind of that Geraldo Rivera, Al Capone moment as far as this safe is concerned.
Yeah, exactly. This is obviously, to me, the left and the deep state and all those folks are just scared and desperate, and they're trying to keep something shiny in front of the American public rather than the reality of the gas prices and the grocery prices and interest rates going up and everything else.
And Steve, I don't think it's unreasonable to think that. And thank you very much for the phone call, man. We appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. And here's why I don't think it's unreasonable. Listen, I consider myself to be a reasonable guy. Sometimes I like to...
Of course you do.
I'm the smartest guy I know. But once, and I don't think it's too tinfoil hat-ish to say, you know what, it's Joe Biden, thanks to Joe Manchin, has had a couple of victories recently. We know it is widely expected there is going to be a red wave in the midterms coming up 3 months from now. But now there's a couple of victories. And the other thing I'll go back to, and don't be mad, but this abortion stuff, I'm telling you, the majority of Americans are okay with some type of abortion, and what's happening on a state level in some states, I don't know. I'm not so sure about this big red wave anymore. So I don't think it's unreasonable to sit and wonder and go, huh. So a couple of little victories on a legislative end, including this Inflation Reduction Act, which does not reduce inflation. Now we've got a little bit of equity in our political wallets. Let's go and raid Trump, because they still wet the bed. These progressives, they really wet the bed. They know Trump did something, dang it, because the Russian collusion, which they pushed and pushed with the help of the national news outlets, nothing there. They've pushed and pushed and pushed. They are still wetting the bed, and they are still trying to get him one way or another. And Steve, your comments here regarding what happened yesterday in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, I think makes sense. Christopher Arps, our Missouri political talking head, he's going to be joining us coming up about 6:35 this morning. We'll talk more on this. 5 minutes from now, Daily DC Rundown. We're going to look at a big moment in American history. This went down 1 year ago, and now is a good time to revisit that in the implications of that.
Thanks for making Wake Up Mid-Missouri your favorite morning show. 93.9 The Eagle.
I think he felt like he had popular support of the citizens of Russia. I also felt like he was attempting to take advantage of fissures that could have appeared in NATO as a result of the post-Afghanistan environment.
General Todd Wolters, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander for Europe, addressing a House Armed Services Committee earlier this year. And if you've been with us for a while here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle, you might be tired of hearing that. But we have a lot of new listeners. We have a lot of regretful Biden voters. We have a lot of younger listeners. So I wanted to bring that up. So that's the General Todd Wolters, NATO, saying here's why Ukraine was invaded by Russia, because of Joe Biden's sloppy pullout in Afghanistan. So when anybody in the White House, anybody on MSNBC, CNN, and USA Today say, well, gas prices aren't the president's fault, that is patently wrong. And these people that are telling you it's not Joe Biden's fault, they're either lying to you or they are flat out stupid. 12 months since the chaotic end of the U.S. war in Afghanistan. It's not been easy for Joe. That's what's getting us into today's Daily D.C. Rundown. Stephanie Bell back tomorrow. New president was flying high, I guess some would say, early in the summer of 2021. That's because he'd been in office, and as most presidents do, had a little bit, hey, you're new, you're shiny, we're going to give you some positive approval ratings. And then he completely stumbled, fell all over himself, killed troops in Afghanistan because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He was surrounding himself by people that didn't know what he was doing. And the part that breaks my heart, number one, people that signed up to defend our country, to defend you, to defend me and Hannah, the producer, and Andy Humphrey, they died because of Joe's ineptness. And we need to make sure we share that story, not in a mean way, but say, see, this is why Joe is a poor president. It is not a conservative talking point. These are just facts. And remember, one of those brave young men lived right down I-70 from us in Wentzville. Been a year ago. Voters in 4 states today going to be determining their party's nominees for the statewide office that typically oversees elections. Much of the attention centering in Wisconsin, where the Secretary of State does not have any role in elections. So several primaries today, and folks, of course, obviously they get excited because you got some in other offices, Pence-backed candidates, Trump-backed candidates. Be interesting to see how this is all playing out. Coming up, Christopher Arps, one of the most talented Missouri politicos. He's got to be talking Missouri politics and that Trump raid. That's 5 minutes from now.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster.
Soon we will have greatness again.
Hours after the FBI raided his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, former President Trump has a campaign-style video up on social media saying the best is yet to come. Fox's Brooke Singman.
I spoke to sources who say the FBI raid of the former president's Palm Beach home is related to potential mishandling of classified documents when he left office in January of 2021. The National Archives retrieved 15 boxes from Mar-a-Lago earlier this year that contained what it believed to be presidential records, as officials are demanding they must be properly preserved.
A source tells Fox FBI agents took more boxes and documents to go through later. Her Grease co-star John Travolta says Olivia Newton-John made all of our lives so much better. She died 73 years old, 30 years after being diagnosed with breast cancer. She raised millions of dollars to support cancer research. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 6:31. Robinson saves you time, currently 69 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Authorities say a St. Louis man drowned after being reported missing at a nature area north of Columbia. State troopers say 61-year-old Michael Smith's body was found at the bottom of the lake at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area yesterday. Investigators say Smith was fishing before he went missing Sunday afternoon. The two friends he was with had left to make a run into town, then couldn't find him when they got back. No foul play is suspected, but the investigation continues. The search for Columbia's next fire chief is reaching its final phase. The city announced 3 finalists for the job yesterday. They are Brian Dunn of San Angelo, Texas, Chris Riley from Colorado, and Clayton Farr Jr. of Columbia. Farr has served various roles in Columbia's fire department for nearly 25 years. Both Dunn and Riley have served as fire chief in their respective towns. Columbia will host a meet and greet with the candidates on Monday, August 22nd at City Hall. Columbia's latest fire chief, Andy Woody, left the post in February to become director of the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. The man charged with killing his infant daughter in Columbia 5 years ago has been ordered to appear in court this afternoon. Stefan Fountain of St. Joseph is charged with first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse and is in jail without bond. He'll appear in court today at 1:30 p.m. Fountain allegedly killed his daughter, Simone Daniels, in 2017. Her remains were found 2 years later behind McKnight Tire on North Providence. The girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, is also charged in the case. Both her and Fountain were arrested after a letter from Daniels was found at a Super 8 motel in June. The Missouri Chamber of Commerce is speaking out against the Inflation Reduction Act. The legislation passed through the U.S. Senate last weekend. It would put $750 billion toward combating climate change and altering health care policies. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce released a statement yesterday saying that the legislation would put too much of a tax burden on its businesses. They say it would hit manufacturers particularly hard. Supporters of the bill, mostly Democrats, say the highest taxes would only apply to large corporations. President Joe Biden has approved Missouri's request for a federal disaster declaration in response to severe flooding that hit St. Louis last month. Biden's decision yesterday makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and some health care. Applicants can also get counseling and disaster-related unemployment assistance. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across the St. Louis area July 26th through the 28th. Authorities say 2 people drowned and many more needed to be rescued. The State Department of Natural Resources says nearly 60% of Missouri is experiencing drought, with 14% reporting extreme drought conditions. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says farmers and ranchers are also dealing with inflation. He says that will be the most expensive crop that has ever done in the ground.
If farmers and ranchers are anything, it's resilient. But truly, the economic headwinds that are facing this nation and all of us here in Missouri are impacting farmers and ranchers essentially in a double whammy.
Hawkins says high energy prices have also impacted Missouri agriculture. 93.9 The Eagle News with Mid-America Mortgage. Check out midamerica.mortgage.us and apply for a loan now on your dream home. It's 6:34. Off day for both the Cardinals and Royals yesterday. The Cardinals will try to extend their winning streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Rockies. Miles Michaelis gets the start for St. Louis. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado was named National League Player of the Week after batting .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won NL Player of the Week. The Royals start off a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today, making up a game that had been postponed back in April. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. And Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The mid-Missouri-based team will take on Delmar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Little League Softball World Series. Sports with Witt Print Shop. It's time to get with it, where printed products are so much more than ink and paper. It's 6:36.
This is the show people are talking about. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Chris.
Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris.
Andy Humphrey, you hear that? That's a couple been married for a while. Cousin Andy is a newlywed. Christopher Arps been married 2 weeks, over 2 weeks.
Over 2 weeks.
I actually saw that on Facebook when that was posted. Congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And how long have you been married, Chris?
It'll be 5 years in October, but we've been together 19.
And already, so married after 5 years, Andy, I want to go back so you can hear this again.
I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Oh, listen, all kinds of sympathy for my wife, Katie, for what she has to deal with. So.
Wait.
See,
Chris,
Andy, that just means you become a yes man and you keep your ideas to yourself. You don't have to worry about that.
Well, we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks or so.
Chris, you and Becky were together for 14 years before you got married?
That is correct. She had to make sure I was the right one.
Oh, I was about to ask who was ready to jump into it and who was not.
I think it was probably me. I'd been married before, and you go through traumatic experiences like that. So, you take your time. Becky probably thought it was a little more time than necessary, but we got it. We got her done.
Let me ask you. So, you were together 14 years.
That's crazy.
Hey, it's either this or politics, and right now I would much rather go with this because just about everybody has been married. I've done it a couple of times. Chris has done it a couple of times. Andy has done it once. Hannah sporting a big old rock on her left ring finger.
I saw that.
She'll be there. So this is a good. This is what some of those pious people like to say. This is a teachable moment. This is a teachable moment for Hannah, the producer. 15 years, Chris, and you went on. And by the way, your wife, Becky, does remarkable work. Your successes over the past couple of years, as much as we'd like to take credit for the successes you've had in the past 3 years, which correlates actually with your time that you've been hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, but it ain't us. You have had a remarkable person who's had your back and has really done some just incredible stuff, and she happens to be just a peach of a human being in Becky. 14 years.
Yeah.
She's either very selective or there were reasons you gave her a lot of doubt to take 14 years to figure out if you was marrying material.
I have to give it to one of Becky's virtues is she's very patient, obviously. And, to get back on what you were saying, you are absolutely right in all seriousness. I tell her all the time, I tell everyone, I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Becky supporting me all these years through IT, just through her love of encouragement. I mean, I have a story to tell one day, and Becky will be a prominent part of it.
As a matter of fact, when you get on to Chris's website, ChristopherArps.com, she handles a lot of that. Chris Arps is on Newsmax TV several times a week. Every week, she makes sure that he, at the very least, puts on a top coat because you can't see. She makes sure he does that. She is just really just a peach of a human being, and I always liken that to Stephanie Bell, who's back here tomorrow on the show. Stephanie Bell, one of the players here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. She is an attorney. She is a mom to 3 kids. She is a wife. She's
new business owner. I hear
new business owner. She now owns the trolley car system in Jefferson City. That is in her bid to take over the planet. But she has, and I'll tell you, her husband, man, if not, and not to take anything away from Stephanie, but you should see what much like Becky, your wife, what her husband, Mr. Bell, does behind the scenes so that she can do this. I'm not kidding, man. I was just hanging out with the guy Saturday night at the Piccadilly event in Jefferson City. What he does, the sacrifices that he does so that she can do all of this, I am incredibly grateful for it because Stephanie gets to hang out with us here every morning. Andy Humphrey is a great example, too. I want to tell you something about Andy. So he's He's here 4 o'clock this morning. He's in for Brian Houseworth, who's also back tomorrow. He did this yesterday, and he's got a lovely new wife helping him. And then he's back in this afternoon doing an afternoon talk sports show. What time? Where can we find that?
That's 4 to 6 on KTGR.
KTGR. So it's all of these spouses that we have in our lives. And I want to contrast that. And Hannah's got her fiance, Branden, who spells his name the right way. Remarkable young man. But let me contrast that with me. I'm not married, no fiancés. I do this all on my own. Chris.
That is not true. That is not true. Just because you don't have anybody, anchored down, don't mean you do it all on your own.
I ain't dropping this anchor anywhere.
You have a lot of people in your audience and that you know personally, me included, Becky included, that have a great deal of respect for you and really do love you. And you're a great guy.
Well, I am fortunate. I do have some remarkable people in my life that really support me, whether it's emotionally or professionally. I haven't found one yet to support me financially. That's what I'm. That's what I'm looking.
You want a sugar mama, basically.
By the way, this is exactly why you should be watching Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
I could call you out so hard right now.
So we were talking, there's a little bit behind-the-scenes stuff, but when I said I'm just looking for somebody to support me financially, there were some looks here in the studio all around. And if you were watching on our YouTube channel, you would have been able to see that and go, oh, there's something there. We did flip the name a little. If you're already on the Wake Up Columbia YouTube channel, it's fine, but we did flip the name a little bit if you're newer and want to watch the show.
Yeah, we're Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert.
And right now we are with Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com, Missouri, talking Politico. What's on your mind this morning? Trump raid last night. We've covered that in depth. Apparently, in one of the safes, I know apparently they're looking for some stuff that Trump took out of the White House when he was moving. They go to Mar-a-Lago. They've taken some few things out. Apparently, they had a safe cracker there, and they spent a lot of time trying to open up this new safe. They opened it up, and there was nothing in there. And I'm not saying they didn't take anything out of the house. How far off is that? Because one of our callers this morning, Steve, said, it's people out to get him. And I don't think it is unreasonable. It's not conspiracy theorist to say, because we know Russian collusion, nothing doing there. It's not unreasonable to think, it's somebody in the White House out to still get him.
Look, this is totally unprecedented to have a former president's home raided by the FBI. I mean, former president would have had to been colluding with Russia, and we've got tapes and video of it or something totally serious in order for a former president's home to be raided like this. I'm going to tell you my theory on this, Branden. During the primaries, we've seen in a lot of these races around the country, the Democrats trying to choose their opponent in the general election. We've seen in a lot of these Senate races, the Democrats, they're putting a lot of money behind the candidate they think is the easiest person for them to beat in the general. I think a little bit of that is going on with this. Look, they know that this is going to completely inflame Trump supporters. We saw it last night. A lot of people were gathered around his house. You can see it on social media right now that people are very angry about that. I think the Democrats are trying to choose our Republican nominee for 2024, and because they believe that Trump is easier for them to beat, just like they did in the primary. I think that's the strategy behind this.
And look at what and that is not unreasonable to say either. Look at the number of Democrats who openly threw money and the Democrats that openly supported some of the more far-right candidates in primaries during the entire primary season here. So that's not unreasonable what you're saying. Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com, also has his own afternoon show now in St. Louis, weekday.
All because of you.
No, it's not. It's all because of you.
Come on,
and
let's
Becky,
give you
man.
credit.
You also see him on Newsmax all the time.
I'll be on this Thursday, too, 5:30, 6, and 7.
5:30, 6, and 7 on
Yes,
Newsmax. So you can see Christopher Arps there. Great stuff on his website. Did you happen to see this story? It was in the Post-Dispatch locally, the Missourian here in mid-Missouri. They picked up the story about the number. By the way, and I think Governor Mike Parson has enjoyed very wide bipartisan support for his pardons and clemency on prisoners. And then it seemed like the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, like a dog, wanted to pee on a fire hydrant on that. Did you see the story regarding the race and the genders of the folks that have been pardoned?
Oh, my God. No, I didn't. But I'm sure it's politically correct, and too many white males have been pardoned, right?
Yeah.
Is that the story?
Yeah, you know this. So you don't know the story, but you know the story. But there's something interesting.
Tell you what it is.
Exactly. Can you hang for a few minutes, and we'll talk about that some more. All right, Christopher Arps, ChristopherArps.com. Please check out his website. I think you're going to enjoy it. One of the things I like the best is that his wife, Becky, spends a lot of time. It's constantly updated. It is fresh, and that's all because of Becky Arps. More with Christopher Arps.
So clean.
And it's clean. It's a good website. Do need to eventually change the Wake Up Columbia logo you have on there.
Are you and Jeff now, too?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm supposed to meet you up there, remember?
Yeah? Good cover, bud. All right, more with... You're good, man. Don't worry about it. The cat is slowly getting out of the bag.
Okay.
All right, we're going to put you on... We're either going to put you on hold or hang up on you.
Okay.
Chris
Talk to you next week.
All right. No, hold on. Chris Arps. Talk about this BS story regarding our governor and his clemency coming up 5 minutes from now on 93.9 The Eagle.
Chris.
Hi, I'm Branden Rathert for Salter Lawn Service. Salter, one call does it all. A couple of weeks ago, I'm in Ashland at a daycare center, and the folks from Salter Lawn Service are there. And to me, this stuff is fascinating. I haven't done a whole lot of blue-collar work in my life. I was a ski guide for a while, did lawn maintenance for a lot of years. But I went to this daycare because Salter was there, and they're laying down like a concrete driveway. And it was kind of cool because I'm like, I know you guys do just about everything, and that's why we say one call does it all. But they're like, man, why don't you come out and watch us? I was so fascinated by what they did and how good because it's not an afterthought for them. I mean, they've hired this dude by the name of Bryce. He does concrete. It was so fascinating. I took some video. Hannah took that video because she was so fascinated, and she posted it on our Facebook page. Check it out. See what Salter can do for you when it comes to concrete work. Salter, one call does it all.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
The whole time, I was a little bit nervous because obviously I'm getting robbed. It was so fast. I didn't really have time to think. I was really scared for my life. And one of them came in with a bag in front of him. And then he held his hand inside that bag as if he was as he had a firearm or whatever. I can only assume the worst.
That dude's name is Johnny Gwen, owns a vape store in Las Vegas. Somebody come in and tried to rob him, and he said, stabbed the dude numerous times. Forgive me, but that is beautiful. And we just saw this happen in St. Charles, Chris, where late at night somebody goes in, they try robbing somebody. Another dude who has a concealed weapons permit came in and said, not today. Ended up killing the attacker. I hate to see the death of anybody. But I think, in my opinion, with what we saw in St. Charles and what we saw this dude do in Las Vegas, fending off these attackers who were trying to take his livelihood, things he worked for, things he has earned, somebody just trying to come in and take it, people defending themselves. I wish these stories would get more hype, because I think it potentially that could be maybe a deterrent to a criminal's going, I might go up here and rob the break time. Somebody might kick my ass. I wish we'd hype these stories more.
I do too. And the person in Las Vegas, look, he's got a lot more courage than I do, because I don't know that if I would be trying to defend or trying to save money or save goods from being stolen when somebody may have a gun or a knife in a bag, and to defend himself with a knife and not having a gun, I think is pretty remarkable. Situation in St. Charles, I've watched the video. The gentleman went out to the parking lot, retrieved his handgun, and took care of business. Look, we have police shortages all around the country. I just read an article about that. Police are quitting the police forces. You're going to have to be your first responder. You're going to have to be your own first responder nowadays. The police get there after the fact. If you want to take care of your family and your possessions and yourself, you got to be armed and carry a weapon. That's just how it is in these days, in these times and days. And it's to that point, but that's the way it is now.
And I wish the national news outlets, USA Today, MSNBC, CNN, I wish they would, because anything happens, especially on the progressive news outlets, anything that a cop does that could be perceived as negative, man, that is front and center for 24 to 48 hours. Somebody, an American citizen practicing their Second Amendment right, or just, again, this dude in Las Vegas, he just used a knife, man. He didn't have a gun to protect himself.
That's kind of studly.
Yeah, it is. I wish that those progressive news outlets would hype those stories and say, listen, people are protecting their businesses. Quit trying to go out and rob and steal things that aren't yours. And if they would highlight that more, then maybe we would get more of that. Maybe we would get more of these people saying, I better think twice before I go and rob the vape store, man.
Yeah, but you know how the Democrats' liberal logic is they believe that more guns equals more death and mayhem instead of more guns being with people that are honest and law-abiding, protecting themselves and their property. They see more guns as the problem, unfortunately.
Progressives typically equal hypocrisy. Case in point, Scott Faughn. You know Scott Faughn and the work he does in Missouri politics. Mm-hmm. He tweeted about Justin Trudeau, who didn't let some of our ball players, like, who was it? Was it Nolan Arenado from the Cardinals that didn't go to Toronto and play? Some Kansas City Royals players play because they're not going to show their papers and they're not getting the vax. Respect those decisions. Scott Faughn tweeted Justin Trudeau flying on an airplane without a mask and going to, even though he doesn't have to, if he's so onerous about that, wear a mask, it'll save your life, rah, 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 rah. Those progressives, that equals hypocrites. Chris Arps, ChristopherArps.com. Please check out his website. I like it, so I think that you're going to like it. Just by virtue of you hanging out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning on 93.9 The Eagle, you're going to like some of the things Christopher has up there. Newsmax when this week?
Thursday, 5:30, 6, and 7.
5:30, 6, and 7. Chris, we love you. Give your wife a big old hug for us.
I will do that. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and talk to you next week.
10-4, man. We will see you coming up about 7:10, man. 70s icon, man. This broke our heart. The death of Olivia Newton-John. Would some of that stuff in the movie Grease work today? We'll look at that at 7:10. Hi, I am Branden for Gaps Automotive Repair Shop. I want to tell you something a little honest here. For years, I would always go to the dealership. If I drove a GM, I'd take my car to the GM dealership. And here's why. And I've got nothing against them. I've been to the GM dealership here in town, too, Bob McCosh. They've done some great work for me. They really have. But I always thought I had to go there. I don't know why. It's just what I thought. And then one day I had some issues with my car, and I went to a couple of separate local mechanics and just to get an inspection. And they said, well, you got this going on. You got this going on. I'm like, I want to get a third opinion because I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable with what I was being told. Went to Gaps Automotive Repair Shop, and they showed me, said, yeah, you do. Here's an issue. Here's what it's supposed to be doing, but here's what yours is doing. And they fixed it, and I love it. And I think you'll love taking your car to Gaps Automotive Repair Shop in Columbia and Boonville.
Trump supporters coming to the former president's defense. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. They rallied outside his Mar-a-Lago, Florida home, which the FBI had raided yesterday, even bringing a cracker to get into a safe that turned out to be empty at the residence.
You're trying to create some kind of charge, so he's not going to be able to run.
It's a fishing expedition. I think they're trying to tarnish him a little bit.
The former president was in New York City at the time and calls the raid corrupt, like something out of a third world country that's never happened before to a president. Then he released a campaign-like ad on his Truth social media app.
Soon we will have greatness again. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country.
And Republicans in Congress are calling for investigations into the Justice Department.
Claims that the agency has been weaponized coming from a lot of the former president's supporters are being met with the current White House saying they had no idea this probe was coming.
The FBI and the raid, that's Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House.
Multiple sources say agents were seeking information related to materials that Trump allegedly brought to his private home after his presidency concluded. The matter was referred to the DOJ by the National Archives and Records Administration, which said it found classified material in 15 boxes at Mar-a-Lago.
This will be familiar for two men in Michigan. Jury selection starts today in federal court to retry Adam Fox and Barry Croft Jr. on charges they were part of a plot to kidnap Michigan's Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer. The first trial ended in a hung jury.
The FBI says they infiltrated a Michigan group looking to target the governor for her COVID-19 restrictions. Croft and Fox's lawyers say they have First Amendment rights that are being trampled, and they were the victims of entrapment.
Fox's Eben Brown. Taiwan is now playing war games, doing live fire drills in response to all the military exercises China is doing around the island nation it claims is Chinese territory. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 7:03. Robinson saves you time. Currently 69 degrees. Could see scattered showers early today and then partly sunny with a high of 84. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. The Highway Patrol has identified the reported missing man who drowned north of Columbia over the weekend. Authorities recovered the body of Michael Smith of St. Louis yesterday at around 8:30 a.m. Smith had been reported missing while fishing at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area Sunday afternoon. Authorities say he was fishing with two friends who had left to make a run into town, then got back and couldn't find him. Investigators don't suspect foul play right now. Smith was 61 years old. Columbia has narrowed its search for a new fire chief to 3 finalists. The city announced yesterday that it is considering Brian Dunn, Chris Riley, and Clayton Farr Jr. for the position. Dunn has served as fire chief in San Angelo, Texas for 21 years. Riley has been chief in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, Colorado, and has more than 40 years of firefighter experience. Farr has served many roles in the Columbia Fire Department since 1998. Columbia's fire department has been without a full-time chief since February when Andy Woody left for a new job in Arkansas. There will be a meet and greet with the finalists at City Hall on Monday the 22nd. Stephon Fountain will appear in court today. He's the St. Joseph man facing first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse after his infant daughter's death in Columbia in 2017. Fountain and the girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, were both arrested in June after a major lead in the case. Fountain is accused of killing his 4 to 5-month-old daughter, Simone Daniels, and hiding her body. Authorities found her remains behind McKnight Tire on North Providence in 2019. Fountain is expected in court at 1:30 this afternoon. President Biden approves Missouri's disaster declaration for recent flooding in St. Louis.
The declaration makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and even some health expenses. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across St. Louis and the area July 26, then hit again 2 days later as residents were still recovering. The Weather Service said the rain that began on July 26 was the most prolific in the St. Louis metro area since records began in 1874. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
The president of Missouri's largest general farm organization says farmers and ranchers are resilient despite dealing with high costs and severe weather. Many Missouri farmers are battling the drought while some have received historic flooding. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says energy and fertilizer costs are also hurting agriculture.
As we think about inflationary pressure on energy, on food, etc., we as farmers and ranchers are consumers too. And this will be the most expensive crop probably that has ever gone in the ground just because inputs have been just through the roof in price.
Hawkins joined Wake Up Mid-Missouri last week. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce is opposing Congress's new $750 billion legislation, saying it would put a huge tax burden on businesses. A spokesperson for the chamber says almost half of the new tax load would come down on manufacturers. Supporters of the bill say it would ensure that wealthier corporations pay their fair share. The U.S. Senate passed the Inflation Reduction Act over the weekend. It's estimated to provide $700 billion in funding over 10 years, which would mostly go toward climate investment and health care. 93.9 The Eagle News with the Candy Factory. Did you know the Candy Factory in downtown Columbia now makes their chocolate-covered strawberries fresh every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday year-round? Learn more at thecandyfactoryonline.com. It's 7:06. No baseball for the Cardinals or Royals yesterday. Both teams had off days. The Cardinals will try to extend their winning streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Rockies. Miles Michaelis will pitch for St. Louis to start. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado received National League Player of the Week honors for this past week after he batted .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won National National League Player of the Week. The Royals start a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today, making up a game that had been postponed back in April. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The Columbia-based team will take on Del Mar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Little League Softball World Series. It's 7:07. Right now, 69 degrees.
We are a nation that has the highest inflation in over 40 years. Where the stock market just finished the worst first half of a year in more than 5 decades. We are a nation that has the highest energy cost in its history.
That's Donald Trump, Fox News, and I know it's a little low there. Fox News talking about Trump coming out with his campaign-style ad. This following the raid at Mar-a-Lago yesterday by the FBI, and I think Fox is underselling it there at the top of the hour. If you get a chance, if you could find the video, it's black and white, and there's thunder and there's snow, and he's talking about some facts, some things that have happened since those terrible events of January the 20th of 2021. Pretty impressive stuff. And again, it's another, and listen, we've been saying this almost since the get-go, following January of 2021. Oh, he's close to an announcement. He's teased a couple of times. This is another one. It doesn't build my excitement, Andy, until there is or isn't an announcement. The other thing, too, seriously, as much as we think about us, we love Trump. I don't know that we are in the majority, and I get we have millions and millions of regretful Biden voters. We're getting them every day here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Younger folks saying, what's going on? Why am I paying almost $5 a gallon for gasoline? Why am I paying $3.50 a can for Progressive soup? Why is everything going up? And we're explaining it to them, and we have an influx of newer listeners, regretful Biden voters, younger folks. And that's something to remember. Hey, it'd be great if Trump were president again. There's this mindset, and I agree with this mindset. How about somebody like a DeSantis, Kristi Noem, somebody who could do it for 8 years, maybe somebody of that same mindset, and maybe somebody who knows how to handle their business on Twitter a little bit better so that MSNBC and CNN isn't lashing out at them every single night. You've heard by now, Trump house in Mar-a-Lago. I say a house. I think his house is like the size of sturgeon. Really, it's a compound. Never been there. I've had numerous conversations with Congressman Billy Long, who's been there, and some other politicians in the past, and say, and not only is it not just a house, and it's not just a mansion, pretty impressive compound. FBI raids it yesterday, going in. Apparently, they're looking for documents that Trump took out of the White House whenever him and the movers moved out. They went to crack a safe, which I didn't know there was such. I guess they're still, I'm hung up in those Hollywood movies, safe crackers.
You gotta let it go, man.
One of our listeners, Jim, says that another word for a safe cracker is a yegg, Y-E-G-G. Something else I'd never heard of. The more you listen here to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, the more you learn. But they spent all this time, and they did take some stuff out of the house. Yeah, it's political. As a matter of fact, I had to laugh at a Washington Post piece saying the minute Trump said this is a political witch hunt, he made it political. That's the Washington Post. Yeah, it's political anyway. You go and you raid the house of a former president. You don't need the Washington Post saying, well, Trump made it political. That's just incredibly idiotic. But apparently they go to crack this safe, and there's nothing in the safe. They opened it up. It was empty. One of our listeners earlier this morning said it was reminiscent of the Al Capone Geraldo Rivera TV event back in the 80s. Which Andy Humphrey, who is in for Brian Houseworth, Cousin Andy, as we like to call him now. You recall that even
a little bit, yeah. It wasn't. I mean, I wasn't around, but I remember it being one of those big moments for especially Geraldo Rivera.
Do you remember, or because it was a big embarrassment for Geraldo Rivera?
Yeah.
Now think about this: when this happened in the 80s. With the exception of television news and sports, you didn't have a whole lot, maybe, political debates. You didn't have live TV events back in my day. That was not a common thing. So
like CNN wasn't around, or like Fox. Yeah, they weren't around.
It wasn't a thing. And Geraldo Rivera, and I think he may have been working for ABC at the time. So we're going to do this big thing. We found Al Capone's vault. We're going to open it, and there was all this hype and all the promos we saw on the TV. And however old I was, I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. And they opened it up, and it was all this foreplay and no follow-through.
Oh, my God.
It was a huge disappointment. Just a huge disappointment. One of our listeners, Steve, likened it to that this morning with them trying to crack Trump's safe last night. Do you remember Grease and Olivia Newton-John?
Yeah, I watched that.
Hannah, you ever seen the movie Grease?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This came out when I was, 10, 11, 12 years old. It came out summer of 76, 77, 78, whatever. And it was like that was the thing that summer. And everybody wanted, God, this is embarrassing. Everybody wanted to be like John Travolta back then. That's embarrassing when I say the words out loud. Because I'm a 51-year-old dude, and also because
different now.
Yeah, it's a little different now. Don't want to be like John Travolta. Olivia Newton-John been struggling with cancer for a while. She succumbed yesterday. She was, I think, 75. I don't know her exact age, but it's something she's been very public about, and she was always willing to talk about it, which I think is great. There's a great story in the Jefferson City News Tribune, and they've done a story, a community of folks coming together for a young lady in the Jefferson City area who has cancer. And they talk about the importance of getting together with folks that know what you are going through, whether it's cancer, whether you've had, let's say, in my family, I had a brother who took his own life at the age of 16. And so whenever I encounter other people that have kids or siblings that have committed suicide, if asked, I share my experience, and I help because I've been there. I know what that is like. And I think the same thing with cancer or with anything. But great article in today's Jefferson City News Tribune regarding these people coming together and supporting this woman. People just want to help her out, and people that have had cancer and that are dealing with it. Grease was a great movie, and the soundtrack, man, like you would go to the movie and see it a couple of times, and then you would get into your Plymouth Duster, and you would listen to the Grease soundtrack. You would listen to it, and I think this was even pre-cassette days.
Whoa!
You listen to it on the 8-track, man, and it was it's just such a strong memory of things. I wonder. And I'm just curious, and I don't ever want to go, oh, my God, this stuff wouldn't work today. But seriously, because there was one song especially that Olivia Newton-John performed in the movie, and it was called, or it wasn't performed by her, but it was about her character. She played Sandra Dee in the movie. She's a new kid in school, and she's kind of a goody two-shoes, and she's kind of wanting to be one of the cool kids, and people would make fun of her purity and of her kindness. And I wonder, would that stuff work now? Could you put out a movie or a song like this? This was the song, Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee. She was an open virgin. She was openly a virgin in the movie, and they were teasing. Some might say they were bullying her. And I just wonder, will that kind of stuff work now? Because now we have to look back at everything we've ever done and go, oh, you remember when you said this word? That's horrible. You shouldn't have done it. Well, at the time I didn't. It doesn't matter. It's bad by today's standards. But I just wonder if that would have worked.
I think in the last couple of years, Greece has kind of been the topic of discussion with similar topics, but people kind of tend to focus more on the misogynistic and sometimes borderline sexual assaulty things that happened in the movie.
It's like, give it up, man. It was the 70s. Quit finding stuff to be upset about, man. And number one, it's a movie. Well, yeah, but she wore tight black leather pants and it sexualized her. Well, it didn't sexualize her. If you looked at it that way, that's on you. That's on you, however you read that, however you soak that up. This is one of my favorites. This is actually on 45 this morning. You're the one that I want, John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. Can't hear enough scratches there in the 45, though. I'll tell you the problem, songs that I have. All these songs that promote codependency. Just about any love song. For example, I can't live if living is without you. What about that? How come nobody ever complains about that? Seriously, man, I'm serious. All these songs that promote codependency.
It's love.
But it's saying I can't, for example, can't live if living without you. I think originally done by Nilsson, and then Mariah Carey, I think, remade that song. How come nobody ever came down on those songs? It's codependency. You're saying you can't live unless you have this dude in your life? That is not a healthy way of life. Eric Carmen saying All By Myself, a song I think then Celine Dion did. And all of these country songs, I can't live, I can't exist without you. That's sick. That's horrible.
Only because you're jealous.
No. I'm not jealous. But for real, nobody focuses. They focus on the language in songs. When I was doing Top 40 radio,
that will never not be funny. I'm sorry.
When I was doing Top 40 radio, I was 103, Twin Falls, Idaho, #1 hit music station. We would have this, this child psychiatrist on the show. We had a parent one day, and it was asking, hey, my kid listens to Eminem and watches these movies, and we get really weird about the swear words. And I love this because it agreed with what we are already doing in our home with our child. We would tell him, listen, Trevor, that's Hollywood. That is art. That song that Eminem, that you're listening to, that is art. We don't talk that way. We don't behave that way in real life. How they're talking in the movies, that is an exaggeration of something. That is not how we talk. And so when this doctor said that to this parent this day, she was a 24-year-old parent and had a 4-year-old kid who was seeing some of these things on the movies, he'd say, number one, and see, this is advice. This is a teachable moment, Hannah.
Great. Let me find a pen.
Yeah. He'd say, number one, if your kid hears that word or they use a word like that, number one, don't freak out. Because guess what kids love? They love to get a rise out of you. They love to get a reaction. And if they say the F word, the S word, the C word, whatever word you want to call it, if they say it, don't be surprised because they get a rise out of you. They love that. And number two, explain to them. Say, yeah, that's make-believe. It's art. It's movies. It's Hollywood. That's not how we behave in real life. Don't make a big deal out of it, but explain it to them. Damn it.
Just had to throw that in there.
Don't do what I do. Hell, don't listen to what I say. All right, let's move forward. Coming up 5 minutes from now, we are going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah. What's smoking today?
Speaking of Hollywood, a couple has broken up in Hollywood, but it's started a conversation about tattoos.
Tattoos. That's What's Hot with Hannah today. We're doing that 7:25-ish on 93.9 The Eagle.
Hey, I'm Dolly.
Opinions on social issues? We throw those around too. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
If you look at what's going on with some of the big corporations with their woke agenda, when you look at the Branden administration in terms of what they're doing.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the Let's Go Branden thing, the Branden administration. I bring this up because now all of a sudden, now they feel like they've got a little bit of equity in Biden's bank because of some quote-unquote victories. By the way, the Inflation Reduction Act, which does not reduce inflation. Here, wait to hear what the Missouri Chamber of Commerce says. Andy has that story here in just a few minutes. But now they feel emboldened. So now they're trying to go in with this, and I'm going to hold the picture up here to the camera. It's a black and white picture, but maybe if you could zoom in on that a little bit, Hannah, for people that are watching. They're going with dark Branden Biden. So they're trying to make him look like the Terminator or something, like lasers in his eyes. They're going all in on dark Branden. It's supposed to be a dark Branden meme. Hi. Good morning. My name is Branden Rathert. There is Hannah, the producer. Stephanie Bell's going to be back with us coming up on Wednesday. Right now, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
We were talking about Hollywood in the last segment with Grease and Olivia Newton-John. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson broke up.
Oh, who saw that one coming?
They were together for 9 months. Of course, Pete is like a big SNL guy. I think that's kind of what he's most popular for. But my question is, he got like 2 or 3 tattoos.
Oh, come on, man.
For Kim. So, like, what do you do with those tattoos now?
Well, you better find the next chick, and her name better be Kim. That's all. What do you do in that situation?
Like, do you get them removed? I mean, obviously, money's probably not an issue. Like, do you cover them up? Like, do you just keep them?
So did you put this on the Facebook page?
I did. I asked if you've ever gotten a tattoo for a significant other that didn't work out.
Are there some stories?
Well, only one person has been brave enough to admit so far.
All right. Is that worth sharing a few minutes from now?
Sure.
Not really? Or you want to share it now?
Well, they just covered it up.
Oh. All right, and that's the story. All right, coming up a few minutes from now, so Andy's going to have this. What is the Missouri Chamber of Commerce saying about the Inflation Reduction Act, which does not reduce inflation? And Columbia Regional Airport public comment period on Phase 2. This is important stuff. We're going to cover that 5 minutes from now.
News. I'm Chris Foster. An FBI raid on former President Trump's resort in Florida, sources tell Fox, is about the taking of classified documents when he left office.
This goes back to what's called the Presidential Records Act. The National Archives Department looked through some boxes that were taken from Mar-a-Lago earlier this year and said, wait a minute, there are some classified documents. Donald Trump has said all along that he's cooperated and that nothing was done underhandedly, and he says he gave whatever he was supposed to give.
Fox's Ashley Webster in West Palm Beach, Florida. A Biden White House official tells Fox they had no prior knowledge of the raid. The president holds a bill signing this morning.
The CHIPS Plus Science Act dedicates more than $50 billion to the semiconductor industry, doling out subsidies and tax credits to manufacturers who build computer chips in the U.S.
Fox's Jared Halpern in Washington. There's also more money in the bill for NASA and robotics research. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 7:31. Robinson saves you time. Currently 69 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Authorities say a St. Louis man drowned after being reported missing at a nature area north of Columbia. State troopers say 61-year-old Michael Smith's body was found at the bottom of the lake at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area yesterday. Investigators say Smith was fishing before he went missing Sunday afternoon. The two friends he was with had left to make a run into town, then couldn't find him when they got back. No foul play is suspected, but the investigation continues. The search for Columbia's next fire chief is reaching its final phase. The city announced 3 finalists for the job yesterday. They are Brian Dunn of San Angelo, Texas, Chris Riley from Colorado, and Clayton Farr Jr. of Columbia. Farr has served various roles in Columbia's fire department for nearly 25 years. Both Dunn and Riley have served as fire chief in their respective towns. Columbia will host a meet and greet with the candidates on Monday, August 22nd at City Hall. Columbia's latest fire chief, Andy Woody, left the post in February to become director of the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. The man charged with killing his infant daughter in Columbia 5 years ago has been ordered to appear in court this afternoon. Stefan Fountain of St. Joseph is charged with first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse and is in jail without bond. He'll appear in court today at 1:30 p.m. Fountain allegedly killed his daughter, Simone Daniels, in 2017. Her remains were found 2 years later behind McKnight Tire on North Providence. The girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, is also charged in the case. Both her and Fountain were arrested after a letter from Daniels was found at a Super 8 motel in June. The Missouri Chamber of Commerce is speaking out against the Inflation Reduction Act. The legislation passed through the U.S. Senate last week. It would put $750 billion toward combating climate change and altering health care policies. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce released a statement yesterday saying that the legislation would put too much of a tax burden on its businesses. They said it would hurt manufacturers particularly hard. Supporters of the bill, mostly Democrats, say the highest taxes would only apply to large corporations. President Joe Biden has approved Missouri's request for a federal disaster declaration in response to severe flooding that hit St. Louis last month. Biden's decision yesterday makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and some health care. Applicants can also get counseling and disaster-related unemployment assistance. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across the St. Louis area late last month. Authorities say 2 people drowned and many more needed to be rescued. The State Department of Natural Resources says nearly 60% of Missouri is experiencing drought, with 14% reporting extreme drought conditions. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says farmers and ranchers are also dealing with inflation. He says that will be the most expensive crop that is ever done in the ground.
If farmers and ranchers are anything, it's resilient. But truly, the economic headwinds that are facing this nation and all of us here in Missouri are impacting farmers and ranchers essentially in a double whammy.
Hawkins says high energy prices have also impacted Missouri agriculture. 93.9 The Eagle News with Willett Dental Associates. 4 out of 10 people are scared of the dentist, but Willett Dental Associates practices conscious sedation dentistry to relax those fears. Make an appointment now at WillettDentalAssociates.com. It's 7:35. Off day for the Cardinals and Royals yesterday. The Cardinals will try to extend their win streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Rockies. Miles Michaelis will pitch for St. Louis to start. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado received an accolade for his recent performance. He was named National League Player of the Week after batting .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won NL Player of the Week. The Royals start off a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today, making up a game that had been postponed back in April. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. And Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The Columbia-based team will take on Del Mar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Softball World Series. Sports with Atterbury Auction and Realty Company, Mid-Missouri's most trusted online and live auction company specializing in real estate and personal property auctions. Visit AtterburySells.com. It's 7:36.
Putting the fun in dysfunctional. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
I said as much as I
Senator from Ohio, all time has expired.
Come on, Bernie.
The question is on the amendment.
I love that. Democratic senator from Ohio over the weekend, Bernie Sanders, he was up there. He's talking the socialist, and I want this, and I want that, and I want to take Andy Humphrey's money to pay for, so you have this. And even Democrats were like, yeah, no, Bernie, this is America. We don't do socialism here. But I love that even Sherrod Brown, his fellow Democrat.
Come on, Bernie.
Come on, Bernie. Come on, man. Pulling a Joe Biden going, Come on, man. That was while they were working their way towards the Inflation Reduction Act, which does not reduce inflation. As a matter of fact, Missouri Chamber of Commerce weighing in on it. What are they saying about this?
Yeah, they are also worried about, how much more businesses in Missouri will have to pay taxes. They particularly pointed out that manufacturing businesses would take a huge tax load from this. And so they were speaking out against that yesterday, trying to tell folks and tell businesses, hey, call your congressman, call your senator, everything like that.
I look at some of these companies locally, and especially it was talking about companies specifically, I think, with over $1 billion. And I don't know if it was in earnings, profit. I don't know, but we went in depth into the companies in Missouri specifically that are going to be hurt by this, and these other companies that may not be affected to that point. But you look like at Hitachi Energy in Jefferson City, American outdoor brands are on 70, and some of our newer friends, even like Beyond Meat, which employs a few people. They laid off, I think, like 40 last week, but not locally. And you look at how it affects these companies. And so those companies, they pay more in taxes. So common sense is, okay, we got to put more out. We got to cut the bottom line. How many of us have ever been in a place, hey, things are tight. What's the first thing they do to cut expenses? They don't buy cheaper toilet paper. They cut you. They lay people off, and that's how this is going to affect us. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. My name is Branden Rathert. There is Andy Humphrey.
Hey there.
I'll tell you a little bit about Cousin Andy. He's a newlywed, pretty sharp guy, and he's an award-winning journalist, sports play-by-play guy.
I mean, yeah,
you've won some stuff.
I suppose I don't know what the title is.
And he's also apparently very humble. It's because he's won some stuff on a statewide level recently. What did you go ahead and brag on yourself for a minute?
Well, it was on our sports show. We've won play-by-play for the last couple of years now, and our show, The Big Show, which you talked about from 4 to 6 on KTGR, also won an Air Talent Award. So that was pretty exciting.
That's pretty cool, and I want to make sure we mention that because you're here early this morning for Brian Hausworth, and then you're going to stay all day. I see you brought your own peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. And
that's an everyday thing. But
you're going to stay here, not go home, not take a nap, and then he's going to be on hosting a sports show on KTGR this afternoon. So I want to make sure we promote your show because you go out of your way to help us out here, and we do appreciate that.
Now also feels like a great time to mention that you and him are wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, somebody noticed. Somebody is watching on our YouTube.
It's not exactly the same shirt
channel, and so yeah, Andy and I got the memo today. Now we do have, I do have a shirt just like that. I think we have worn it on the same days before.
See, yours is a full button down. Mine's just a polo shirt.
So. Basically the same color.
It's the same color.
It's adorable, really.
Yeah, we got the memo. How cute.
Why didn't you, Hannah?
Sorry, I don't own any button downs. I'm sorry.
Stephanie Bell is back tomorrow. Welcome into the show. We are so glad that you are here. Columbia Regional Airport, and it's called regional for a reason. It serves Jefferson City, Holt Summit, Fulton. I've met people in that airport, even from Sedalia, that would rather, instead of go to Kansas City, they would rather fly out of the Columbia Regional Airport. Couple of things happening there. Number one, we're getting close to this new terminal being open. And before, if you want to, taxpayer dollars, it legally had to be redone to be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Additionally, that's important for regional development. You look at Lincoln University. You look at the University of Missouri. You look at people coming in here, especially over the past 2.5 years, more and more people working from home going, you know what? I don't have to go and move to Cincinnati, Ohio. I can work from right here. And you know what? I've got this really excellent airport that's like 10 minutes away from the city of Columbia, maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from Jefferson City. It is close. It is easy to do. New terminal going to be opening up soon. But first, I want to bring in Mike Parks. He has done, I think, great work over the past several years regarding our regional airport, the Columbia Regional Airport. There's a public comment period coming up on Phase 2. What is Phase 2, Mike, that we can be commenting on?
Hey, good morning. Yeah, Phase 2 is part of the terminal project. It's the brick building that's just south of the new terminal location. And so that brick building, or Phase 2, is going to include repurposing that building for TSA offices, airport administration, and rental car counters and offices. Along with that project, there'll also be improvements to that parking area around that building.
You mean the gravel parking lot? The one that's still gravel?
Well, that one's actually asphalt.
Oh, really? Okay. What about the gravel parking lots?
Yeah, so the gravel parking lot that's out front of the new terminal, we just went out to bid on that. We'll be awarding that soon, and we anticipate that parking lot will be built new here soon.
Okay.
We'll be completing that project.
All right. And while we have you, when is this new terminal open? I know we've said end of the summer, early fall, late August, early September. Have you taken out your smartphone and put it into your calendar yet? Official opening yet?
We don't have a specific date yet. We're still working on getting an exact date, but we anticipate construction will be completed again in September.
Okay.
Probably towards the end of September, and then we'll be working hard at getting everything ready to go, and we'll open up soon thereafter.
And I want you to know, because I do sing the praises of the Columbia Regional Airport, I think it's fair to mention I don't get any money from Columbia Regional Airport. I don't get paid. I prefer it because it is close. And yes, it is sometimes a little bit more expensive than flying out of St. Louis or Kansas City. But my time, you know how much Hannah, the producer, pays me per hour, Mike? My goodness. If I were to extrapolate that in my travel time, my goodness. So my time is worth it. The gas money is worth it. Not having to pay park. I did fly out of St. Louis a couple weeks ago to see the grandkids in Idaho, and the only reason I did that is in case of a canceled flight. I did have more options. They wanted to charge me $50, and not even at the airport, but at the hotel I stayed, they wanted to charge me $15 a day just for my car to sit there between a couple of painted lines. $15 a day. It is absolutely worth it for me to fly out of Columbia Regional Airport. But if you could talk for like 30 seconds, this is important. People think, well, I don't fly out of the airport. I don't ever fly. Or I fly out of St. Louis. Think about the people that we have in education and healthcare that come into this area, whether it's Lincoln University, University of Missouri, and Columbia College, and the schools in Fulton. I mean, there's so many reasons, one or two big reasons why having an airport of this stature, this close to us, is so important, Mike.
Yeah, Brandon, we appreciate your support. I know I see you out here a lot flying out. And ultimately, it's not maybe if we're flying out, but it's also just business travel coming into the mid-Missouri. The airport supports about 17 counties in the mid-Missouri region. And so, again, it's not just Columbia or Fulton or Jeff City or Boonville. I mean, it supports the entire region. And so the great thing is just here in mid-Missouri, you can jump on a plane with one stop. You can be about anywhere in the world. And so it's a great benefit to all of us here. And hopefully everybody gets an opportunity to give it a try here soon.
The other reason that I appreciate the improvements because, again, think about this. We're bringing in, and by the way, and please don't be mad at me, Mike, but the number of well-known athletes and actually celebrities, because I have seen it, when they come to this area, let's say like they're going to Mizzou or they're doing something else, they're coming into that airport. But that aspect aside, the money people, the people that have the ability to influence and make some very positive changes in our community. I am a big believer in some people, some of my friends at the Columbia Pachyderms knock me for it, but I'm all about sense of arrival. They like to call it beautification, but sense of arrival, because basically it's been you're pulling up into a trailer park in Ashland, Missouri. That's what the airport has been like now, and we are changing that, and to me, that is incredibly important. These people, these great minds, they're flying in and they're going to see this new area. They're going to see it jazzed up. And that is, listen, it's the cover of the book. And in this case, in my mind, it is very important. Selfish question before I let you go. We had that flight to Denver for like 5 minutes. And then the spring of 2020, we know what happened to that. I'm anxious for that flight because it gets me to my kids quicker. You fly out of Columbia, you fly into Dallas or Chicago, and then you hit anywhere in the world. Any movement on, and I won't say just Denver, But any movement, anything that you might be able to tease us with as far as flights into any other cities right now that we're working on? Okay.
No, I appreciate you bringing that up, Brandon. Of course, United did suspend service here in Colombia, like they did many other regional airports across the country. This pilot shortage has definitely had an impact everywhere and every airline. And so with that, we had 7 different airline meetings in the beginning of this year. 7 airlines took the time to talk with us and had an interest in Colombia. With that said, we actually had 3 more airline meetings out of those 7. We had 3 additional meetings as follow-ups. They've been very positive conversations. So don't have any announcements at this time. However, we're very hopeful that soon we'll have an announcement of additional service here in Colombia.
All right. This stuff all matters. Mike Parks, Director, Columbia Regional Airport. I'm always appreciative of your time.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, and anything we can do for you, please let us know. Coming up here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri about 5 minutes from now, what's happening with some of our local schools? Southern Boone County School District Superintendent Chris Felmley, in effect, out right now. Recently, the Blair Oak Superintendent is out. We're going to kind of look at those. And the Columbia Public School District, I got to give them some kudos. We'll do that about 5. Quit laughing, Hannah. I'm for real. I'm going to give kudos to Columbia. And it's not, I'll tell you this now, it's not facetious. It's not smart alecky. It's something that people have complained about, actually, for a while. And they deserve some kudos. We'll do that coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.
Thanks for making Wake Up Mid-Missouri your favorite morning show. 93.9 The Eagle.
Instinct, that's just it. I guess knowing that I'm protected and I can protect somebody else, it's just like, I should be okay.
I know that sounds weird, and the reason why is KSDK, the NBC television affiliate in St. Louis, protecting that guy's identity. This is a story you might remember has made statewide news. We've covered it here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. St. Charles last month, middle of the night, late at night, early in the morning, whatever you want to call it. It was after midnight over the weekend, and a guy pulls up at a gas station in St. Charles, right down I-70, and he sees that the cashier is getting robbed. Guy is he's got his own piece, man. He goes out to the car, comes back into the store, and he says, and there's video on the St. Louis Post-Dispatch website, comes back in the store, he says, hey, you all right? And then the dude who's trying to rob the chick, he's got her knife pointing and everything. They have words. The woman's able to get away from the guy, and this bystander shoots and kills the man who could have stabbed this woman trying to rob the place. And so the KSDK affiliate, they interviewed him, and he's like, man, I just, I had to protect my fellow man. I thought it was a great story. We saw this, and we played some of the audio earlier this morning from a guy in Las Vegas. He was working at a vape shop. I think he owns the vape shop. His name is Johnny Gwen. He fended off an attacker. These two dudes, if you get a chance, see the videos, but these two dudes come in, one, and they're in a mask, got the backpack, and one, how some of those people leave the tip jar at the counter? One dude comes in, he's got the mask and he's got the backpack and everything, and he comes in and he takes the tip jar. Really? You're going to get all decked out for that?
We've highlighted a lot of really dumb criminals on the show over the years. There was the local guy who tried to rob a convenience store with a .22 shotgun and what appeared to be a pair of granny panties on his face.
That is still a classic. And then we had a guy who just tried, I think he broke into the Midway Antique Mall a couple of days ago and was caught not far from there. And I think it was a couple of days, I might be wrong, but a couple of days after the fact, he was caught not far from there and still had all the stuff that he took from this legendary local mid-Missouri store, still had it in his car. Dude, go bail the goods that you stole at the very least.
It's not much deniability there, bud.
Where'd that stuff come from? It's not my stuff.
I've never been there before.
Johnny Gwen, he fended off an attacker. Two folks come in, try to rob him, and he stabbed. So the one guy that took the change jar, he even said to the guy, he's like, hey, will you at least leave the jar? Take the cash, but leave the jar. Then the other dude hops behind the counter and starts to try stealing some vape stuff. This guy was able to stab him, protect himself, and the stuff that he worked hard for, the stuff his money paid for.
The whole time, I was a little bit nervous because obviously I'm getting robbed. It was so fast. I didn't really have time to think. I was really scared for my life. And one of them came in with a bag in front of him, and then he held his hand inside that bag as if he was as he had a firearm or whatever. I can only assume the worst.
So there's Johnny Gwen, and I wish the national news outlets, because they don't do it, but man, the second that a cop might even be accused, anybody in law enforcement might even be accused of doing something wrong, they are on it hard, man. But a citizen defending themselves, whether it's with a gun or with a knife, I just wish we would cover. I wish the national news outlets would hype that stuff more for two reasons. These guys are heroes, man. They're heroes. And number two, then maybe that sends the message, because the message that national news outlets have been sending, cops are bad. And look at what's happened with cops over the past 2 to 5 years. We send this message, maybe they'll hear that message. Hey, don't try to rob and take stuff that ain't yours, because somebody might kick your ass, man. I want to share something cool about CPS coming up at 8:10. Hi, I'm Branden Rathert. I want to tell you a story about a couple, and they live kind of like WW in Rolling Hills Road. And a lot of new development down there where they happen to live. They kind of live in a subdivision. It's been there for a while. And they thought, we've been here for a while. We want to keep up with the Joneses. They were very honest about it. And so I said, well, and I don't know a whole lot about homes, but I said, I do know this. Greg Hodges Roofing and Siding. Besides roofs, he does really good siding. And they're like, well, we just want to make the place look good. I said, well, listen, don't call me. Call Greg at Hodges Roofing and Siding. And this couple, by the way, have been married for over 30 years. So they called Greg at Hodges Roofing and Siding, and he went and showed him. He said, yeah, you put new siding, even if you don't need it, but would like to enhance the look of your home, it'll work. That's what they did. The house looks beautiful. HodgesRoofingandSiding.com.
What did the FBI get? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's the big question the day after raiding former President Trump's Florida home, executing a court-approved search warrant.
This gives me confidence that the Justice Department is really pursuing this thoroughly, objectively, and in a non-political way.
That's what Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna told MSNBC. Republicans could not disagree more, calling for investigations. Congressman Greg Steube tells Fox.
It was raided, but this is the #1 contender to take on Joe Biden in 2024. This is a politicized and a weaponized DOJ.
The former president agrees, calling it an assault, corrupt, something out of a third world country.
This truly was an unprecedented action by the Justice Department on the residence of a former president.
Fox's Phil Keating outside Mar-a-Lago.
Trump was not here, key to note, at the time. He was in Manhattan at Trump Tower. This all centers on the former president allegedly taking classified and top-secret documents with him as he moved from the White House to Florida, between 12 and 15 boxes worth, which should go to the National Archives.
A Trump-era border policy has ended, the one requiring migrants seeking asylum in the U.S. wait in Mexico for their hearings. This after a judge lifted an order that the policy must be reinstated. Amid a surge of migrants coming to the U.S. illegally, Republicans like Senator Roger Marshall call a crisis.
We have an administration that won't even admit that we have a problem.
Taiwan's responding to days of Chinese war games in the island nation China claims to own.
As China all but simulates an invasion of the self-governing democracy, it has been days of unprecedented shows of live fire force by China's People's Liberation Army. For the first time, missiles fired over Taiwan and an effective blockade. All of this in response to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island nation last week.
Fox's Amy Kellogg, Taiwan conducting drills today. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 8:03. Robinson saves you time. Currently 70 degrees. We'll We might see some scattered showers today, but partly sunny for the rest of the day, a high of 84. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. The Highway Patrol has identified the reported missing man who drowned north of Columbia over the weekend. Authorities recovered the body of Michael Smith of St. Louis yesterday at around 8:30 a.m. Smith had been reported missing while fishing at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area Sunday afternoon. Authorities say he was fishing with two friends who had left to make a run into town, then got back and couldn't find him. Investigators don't suspect foul play right now. Smith was 61 years old. Columbia has narrowed its search for a new fire chief to 3 finalists. The city announced yesterday that it is considering Brian Dunn, Chris Riley, and Clayton Farr Jr. for the position. Dunn has served as fire chief in San Angelo, Texas for 21 years. Riley has been chief in Colorado Springs and Pueblo, Colorado, and has more than 40 years of firefighter experience. Farr has served many roles in the Columbia Fire Department since 1998. Columbia's fire department has been without a full-time chief since February when Andy Woody left for a new job in Arkansas. There will be a meet and greet with the finalists at City Hall on Monday the 22nd. Stephon Fountain will appear in court today. He's the St. Joseph man facing first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse after his infant daughter's death in Columbia in 2017. Fountain and the girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, were both arrested in June after a major lead in the case. Fountain is accused of killing his 4 to 5 month old daughter, Simone Daniels, and hiding her body. Authorities found her remains behind McKnight Tire on North Providence in 2019. Fountain is expected in court at 1:30 this afternoon. President Biden approves Missouri's disaster declaration for recent flooding in St. Louis.
The declaration makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and even some health expenses. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across St. Louis and the area July 26, then hit again 2 days later as residents were still recovering. The Weather Service said the rain that began on July 26 was the most prolific in the St. Louis metro area since records began in 1874. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
The president of Missouri's largest general farm organization says farmers and ranchers are resilient despite dealing with high costs and severe weather. Many Missouri farmers are battling the drought, while some have received historic flooding. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says energy and fertilizer costs are also hurting agriculture.
As we think about inflationary pressure on energy, on food, etc., we as farmers and ranchers are consumers too. And this will be the most expensive crop probably that has ever gone in the ground, just because inputs have been just through the roof in price.
Governor Parsons says there is at least $35 million in damage to uninsured infrastructure and emergency response costs that were incurred due to the major flooding. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce is opposing Congress's new $750 billion legislation, saying it would put a huge tax burden on business. A spokesperson for the chamber says almost half of the new tax load would come down on manufacturing businesses. Supporters of the bill say that it would ensure that wealthier corporations pay their fair share. The U.S. Senate passed the Inflation Reduction Act over the weekend. It's estimated to provide $700 billion in funding over 10 years, which would mostly go toward climate investment and health care. 93.9 The Eagle News with First State Community Bank. Every new account at the all-new First State Community Bank on Discovery Parkway gives $50 back to a local charity. You keep banking, we'll keep building. First State Community Bank, community strong. It's 8:06. No baseball for the Cardinals or Royals yesterday. Both teams had scheduled off days. The Cardinals will try to extend their winning streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Miles Michaelis will pitch for St. Louis. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado received an accolade for his recent performance. He was named National League Player of the Week after batting .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in and over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won NL Player of the Week. The Royals start a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today, making up a game that had been postponed back in April. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The Columbia-based team will take on Delmar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Softball World Series. Sports with Renewal by Andersen. Truly custom replacement windows and patio doors. Visit renewalbyandersen.com and you'll love your new windows. It's 8:08. Right now, 70 degrees.
The elimination of the general public comment. I think that it's a good opportunity to hear general things from the public about our school district. The other two major changes really, they're only applicable when there is something very important to the community on the agenda. And that's when the other rules will take place. It's only when they're actually getting some pushback on certain agenda items is when...
All right. So that's John Potter. He is with Como Citizens for CPS Accountability. Yesterday, prior to a meeting last night, and I know this, a lot of folks, it was interesting in our conversation with John. He said, we got parents that we may not politically agree with, but they're starting to get a little bent out of shape. What do you mean you might want to try to clamp down on us commenting at public comment sections during school board meetings? And we do have a lot going on, because you look at what's happening right now in some other school districts. Southern Boone School District, Chris Felmley, and in fact, he's out. A lot of folks still wondering what happened with the Blair Oaks superintendent. And if you're not familiar with the Columbia Public School District and the issues that they have had over the years, and I do want to mention, I want to compliment the Columbia Public School District here for something. This first came to my attention. I had a friend, I guess 2-3 years ago. His name is Aaron. He ran unsuccessfully to be a school board member on the Columbia Public School District board. And one of the things he said, one of the things he was hearing from parents as he was going door-to-door campaigning, the website, the Columbia Public School District website. Now, again, if you're not a parent, you might be going, well, whatever, it's a website. No, that's not the right attitude to have on this. When you're a parent, and you have kids in school and you are trying to find information, it is critically important that you be able to access that and that it's easy. And I will tell you this, it has not been. Columbia Public School District is overhauling their website. The goal is to be more user-centric and responsive. That has been another issue, not just from a parent standpoint, but I will tell you from somebody who, I hate to say I work in media, but doing what I do here, that has been an issue. And so I'd get on that website. There's a lot there, incredibly difficult to navigate. So I wanted to give CPS, I do want to give them some credit for doing that, because I do give where credit is due. And some folks within the school district think, well, stop with your attacks. And I tell them all the time, listen, facts are not attacks. So they deserve some kudos there. And by the way, the guy who ran for school board, he's now moving to Fayette to get out of the school district. Welcome into the show. I want to bring in Suzette Waters. She is a newly elected school board member. Suzette, thank you for joining us on the show. And I know you're in the middle of something right now. But kind of at this meeting last night, what's kind of the takeaway as it relates to public comments at school board meetings? And we didn't vote on anything. It's going to come up in September, but kind of bottom line, what was one of your biggest concerns about this?
Well, I do want to say, thank you for having me on the show. Good morning. The takeaway last night was that was just our first discussion. Mm-hmm. So it may come up in September. It may not. It goes back to the policy committee now. So the policy committee will meet at their next meeting. They'll discuss it some more. They can make some tweaks, and then they'll make a recommendation. So we may not vote in September. And I think what I was pleased with last night was the amount and depth of the discussion about the policy, and the fact that we kind of acknowledged that we still have a lot of work to do. I heard a lot of different comments. I heard some different perspectives. I got a little bit more understanding about the reasoning for changing the policy. And I also feel like I was able to make a few points that were important to me. Okay. So I think the process of discussion during an open board meeting was very productive. And I was happy to have that. I haven't seen that from the board before. We don't do a lot of just discussing. So I think we should do that.
Headline in a local newspaper: CPS board to vote in September on new public comment policy. But did you have what are your concerns? Okay, then somebody let.
Okay, it could be. It's based on what happens at the policy meeting.
Okay, well, that's why we have you on to clarify those things for us. I'm glad we're doing that. Yeah, headline CPS.
And they can actually make a recommendation that we vote, and then based on input from the community and the board, it depends on how it's worded in the agenda.
All right.
So there's still a lot of steps to take.
All right, but I think as a whole, and I get it, some of these meetings, I can look at the Columbia City Council meetings and how long some of those meetings go, but I hope that as a board, we're talking about parents of school kids, and I understand you do have to have some parameters in place, but the idea that we would try to quelch anybody, putting severe... And here's the problem, I think, too, as I see it. Suzette, and you and I have talked before when you were running for school board, the reputation of the Columbia Public School, the board, the president of the school board, and people in the administration, the reputation of the school precedes anything. People, there's a lot of negative history there when it comes to dealing with parents. And I was talking with another news outlet this past Friday, and because I sometimes think, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's just me having the issue unsolicited. I had another news outlet saying, yeah, we have issues with communications, with administration and the BS stuff we get. And that's not on you, but it is an issue. But I will just say this, that we can't. It is incredibly disingenuous and wrong that we would try to restrict, in effect, parents being able to make concerns known. And I think one of the things that was it something you'd said there or something you'd heard about because I hear this too, and this is something else that's happening. Well, you can reach out to individual school board members. I have reached out not just to school board members and gotten no response. I've reached out to the person who gets paid a good chunk of money every year to handle this stuff, and we've had discussions where I have been told by this person, well, I respond to you every single time. No, you don't. Then had to send proof to prove that they were wrong. I don't know if it skipped their mind or they were lying. I don't know. So I know there are issues with other parents trying to get in touch with school board members, or not getting in touch, but get response. The other issue is that sometimes there's parents, we want to address the board, the entire board, at the same time. And I think that was something that maybe that you had kind of touched on yesterday.
I did touch on that. I want to emphasize that the discussion is ongoing. So we're all we're receiving input from the community by email and in person, and we're talking about it in the space as a board. And so that the discussion is ongoing. And I do think we have new leadership this year. I do think we are trying to do our best to balance what our mission is, which is to create an environment where students succeed, and then balance that with the obligation to be available to the public. Okay. And what that looks like is exactly what we're discussing. So I think I hope we'll get there. I think we will get there, where we will find a way that is that we can engage with the public in a meaningful way, in ways that will actually inform our decisions, and not just be. Well, also, but I think it is important that we not put too many parameters on it, but we do need to be able to focus on school-related things. So, what I'll say is that the discussion continues, and I believe in being available to the public as a publicly elected official, and I think my fellow board members also believe in that. The way we define it may differ, and which I think is fine. I think it's actually really fine for us to disagree on a couple of things, and I was proud last night that we kind of did that in a diplomatic and public way, because I think the public appreciates seeing that we're not just 7 robots that always vote yes.
Columbia Public School,
no.
Columbia Public School Board member Suzette Waters. I appreciate what you're saying. I do have to move forward. I do appreciate the open and frank discussion. And I think there's going to be a lot to overcome. I don't think anybody, and I don't, if it's people in Cole County, Callaway County, people talking about us in Montauk County when the school board, and God bless Helen Wade for the work that she has done on behalf of Eric Greitens' ex-wife. She's been killing it in court, but nobody will ever forget the way she shut down that meeting and telling somebody they were being derogatory when they weren't. That is a lot to overcome, and that's why I am hopeful that the school board members will tread very carefully when it comes to changing any kind of public comment, because people will not forget that. And I want to thank you for your prompt response, because I did reach out to you kind of late in the ball game in trying to get some of your time. And the other person who has been helpful in the past, I think got to give a little bit more kudos. Blake Willoughby has been very helpful. Suzette Waters, Columbia Public School Board member, thank you for joining us here on the show.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. And yeah, the work continues.
All right, thank you. Because it's interesting. I wonder if parents, for example, Blair Oaks, superintendent, retired, he had 2 months on leave, and we don't know a whole lot. And I don't know, maybe we're not supposed to know a whole lot about what happened with the Blair Oaks superintendent. Does it matter if the superintendent's gone? As a parent, do you want to know, well, what happened to our superintendent? Why is he no longer the superintendent where my kids were going to school? I don't know if that falls under the guise of communications. Felmley in the Southern Boone County School District. What happened there? And I think parents want to know what's going on. Why are they no longer there? Coming up, the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. A little twist today. Oh, and I think we're going to do, maybe we'll do this at 8:35. We're constantly fact-checking stuff here on our own show. We run it through the Ministry of Truth because we want to make sure that we are being as accurate as possible. We don't always hit the mark. And when we don't hit the mark, what do we like to do, Hannah? We like to communicate that and be honest.
I was hoping you forgot about this already.
Usually I do. I'm pretty consistent.
I know.
I usually do forget. But one of the members here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning missed the mark on something. And we are going to have to do a fact check. We're going to run it through the Ministry of Truth. We'll do that at 8:35 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.
This is the show people are talking about. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
We feel it is a good bridge to the community to help people that are struggling, to help build trust and to help people out. Not everybody needs a ticket. Some people just need a little help.
I love that. That is Lieutenant Tom Wilkinson. He is with the St. Charles Police Department, and they're doing something. And I think we've even talked about that right here on this show. And is what they're doing. They're starting this program, and I think they've done it in other parts of the country. It'd be cool to see it if we could get something like this in Cole County or Montauk County or Randolph County. But is what they're doing is, let's say you got a tail light out. Cops pull you over. History has been you get a ticket. Couple of things. Number one, a lot of times I don't know that my tail light is out because usually when my tail lights is on, I'm inside the car driving. The other thing sometimes folks do know, but frankly, right now, since the tragic events of January 20th, 2021, spending that money to fix a tail light can be a challenge. It really can be. So what they're doing in St. Charles is you get pulled over for a traffic infraction because you got like a tail light out or something. They are giving you a voucher to get the light fixed instead of a ticket. Love that idea. Would like to see more of that. Good morning, 8:28. Time for the Morning Bell Business News with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. And here's the twist today. Steph's not doing it. She'll be back here tomorrow with us on the show. The Great Resignation. Remember the Great Resignation, the Great Reset. Some of it was people resigning. A lot of it was not COVID. It was what governments did. For example, City of Columbia, they made people lose their jobs because, for example, the restaurants said, well, you can only do this. You can only let in X number of people into your business. And these business owners were saying, well, this is America, right? People know the health risks right now during the COVID thing, so why don't you let them make their own decisions? And leadership in Columbia said, nope, we're going to make those decisions for you. Guess what happened? A lot of these people went out of business. A lot of these people lost their life savings. So it was the Great Resignation. It was whatever you want to call it. And then it was the Great Reset. But check this out. The fact that workers regret quitting during the Great Resignation underscores a more significant issues. Workers' needs are not getting met. According to a recent survey by Joblist, about 26% of people who quit their job during what was dubbed the Great Resignation, they regret it. So more than one out of four people saying, I wished I wouldn't have done that. I thought Joe was just going to give me money for the rest of my life, because that's what a lot of these people think. What progressives, that's the progressive mindset. I can stay home, not work, and the government will just take care of me. More than 1 in 4 people regret that. 42% of the folks who quit, found a new job, said, I wish I would have kept the other job. But it was a cool thing to do, right? Everybody was quitting. It was the Great Resignation, So I did it too. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and now I'm paying for it because I really regret what I am doing. I hope you'll stay with us. Coming up 5 minutes from now, we got to run something we said here on the show. We got to fact check it. We are going to run that through the Ministry of Truth.
News. I'm Chris Foster. Sources tell Fox the raid on former President Trump's home in Florida is about classified documents taken when he left office. Trump's supporters have been at Mar-a-Lago protesting.
Claims that the agency has been weaponized coming from a lot of the former president's supporters are being met with the current White House saying they had no idea this probe was coming. A White House official told Fox in a statement, "We did not have notice of the reported action and would refer you to the Justice Department for any additional information."
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. Charged with murder, a traveling nurse from Houston accused of causing a multi-car crash in California. 5 people, including a pregnant woman, died.
Miss Nicole Litton will be charged with six counts of murder
in 5 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter.
Los Angeles County DA George Gascon says she ran a red light driving 90 miles an hour in Windsor Hills just outside LA last Thursday. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Andy Humphrey on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 8:31. Robinson saves you time. Currently 70 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Authorities say a St. Louis man drowned after being reported missing at a nature area north of Columbia. State troopers say 61-year-old Michael Smith's body was found at the bottom of the lake at Rocky Fork Lake Conservation Area yesterday. Investigators say Smith was fishing before he went missing Sunday afternoon. The two friends he was with had left to make a run into town, then couldn't find him when they got back. No foul play is suspected, but the investigation continues. The search for Columbia's next fire chief is reaching its final phase. The city announced 3 finalists for the job yesterday. They are Brian Dunn of San Angelo, Texas, Chris Riley from Colorado, and Clayton Farr Jr. of Columbia. Farr has served various roles in Columbia's fire department for nearly 25 years. Both Dunn and Riley have served as fire chief in their respective towns. Columbia will host a meet and greet with the candidates on Monday, August 22nd at City Hall. Columbia's latest fire chief, Andy Woody, left the post in February to become director of the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. The man charged with killing his infant daughter in Columbia 5 years ago has been ordered to appear in court this afternoon. Stefan Fountain of St. Joseph is charged with first-degree murder and abandonment of a corpse and is in jail without bond. He'll appear in court today at 1:30 p.m. Fountain allegedly killed his daughter, Simone Daniels, in 2017. Her remains were found 2 years later behind McKnight Tire on North Providence. The girl's mother, Lavosha Daniels, is also charged in the case. Both her and Fountain were arrested after a letter from Daniels was found at a Super 8 motel in June. The Missouri Chamber of Commerce is speaking out against the Inflation Reduction Act. The legislation passed through the U.S. Senate last weekend. It would put $750 billion toward combating climate change and altering healthcare policies. Missouri's Chamber of Commerce released a statement yesterday saying that the legislation would put too much of a tax burden on its businesses. They say it would hit manufacturers particularly hard. Supporters of the bill, mostly Democrats, say the highest taxes would only apply to large corporations. President Joe Biden has approved Missouri's request for a federal disaster declaration in response to severe flooding that hit St. Louis last month. Biden's decision yesterday makes St. Louis area residents eligible for federal help with temporary housing, home repairs, and some health care. Applicants can also get counseling and disaster-related unemployment assistance. Record rainfall caused widespread flash flooding across the St. Louis area in late July. Authorities say 2 people drowned and many more needed to be rescued. The State Department of Natural Resources says nearly 60% of Missouri is experiencing drought, with 14% reporting extreme drought conditions. Missouri Farm Bureau President Garrett Hawkins says farmers and ranchers are also dealing with inflation. He says that will be the most expensive crop that is ever done in the ground.
If farmers and ranchers are anything, it's resilient. But truly, the economic headwinds that are facing this nation and all of us here in Missouri are impacting farmers and ranchers essentially in a double whammy.
Hawkins says high energy prices have also impacted Missouri agriculture. 93.9 The Eagle News with Hemi Construction, with homes and lots in the southwest neighborhoods of Chapel Hill Meadows, Nursery Heights, Creek's Edge, and Timberbrook. It's 8:34. Off days for both the Cardinals and Royals yesterday. The Cardinals will try to extend their winning streak to 8 games tonight as they start a 3-game set on the road against the Rockies. Miles Michaelis will pitch for St. Louis. Hear the game on 93.9 The Eagle with first pitch at 7:40. Cards third baseman Nolan Arenado was named National League Player of the Week yesterday after batting .476 with 3 homers and 8 runs batted in over the last 6 games. It's the second time this year that Arenado has won NL Player of the Week. The Royals start off a 4-game set at home against the White Sox with a doubleheader today, making up a game that had been postponed back in April. First pitch for Game 1 is set for 3:10 at Kauffman Stadium. And Daniel Boone Little League's softball team begins play today at the Little League Softball World Series in Greenville, North Carolina. The Columbia-based team will take on Del Mar Little League from Maryland at 9 a.m. This is the second year in a row that Daniel Boone Little League has made it to the Softball World Series. Sports with Tiger Towing. When you can't get going, call Tiger Towing, 573-449-3754 or tigertowing.com. It's 8:36.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
It's vintage. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
John, she kind of faded out of the limelight for a few years until, I don't know if it was 1980 or 1981, and she did the song "Physical." Let's Get Physical, which was at the time a great song. It's not on my playlist today.
Oh, it's not?
No.
It's not next to Olivia Rodrigo?
But here's one of my favorite Olivia Newton-John songs ever. And I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't say this. But I did always as a kid.
This is going to be good.
Now, remember, the first 45 record that I ever owned.
Just tell us what it is, man.
Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life. That was my first 45. This was one of probably my favorite Olivia Newton-John songs ever.
I love you.
Shannon.
Move forward.
Shannon.
Do we have audio of me making a mixtape when I was like 19 years old? It's interesting. We talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. Missouri Chamber of Commerce, they've come out and they've released a statement. What's their take on it?
Well, they think it'll put a few too many taxes on businesses, and of course now with the inflation, they kind of contend that it's not really going to do much to inflation, or at least to combat it. The other side is arguing, well, it's going to be the larger corporations that pay most of it, but still, I mean, there will be some businesses that take on a bit of a higher tax load. Missouri Chamber of Commerce is pointing to what manufacturers will have to deal with if this does get passed through the House and then through everything else. The president signs it.
And I hope, because we look at some of the large employers here in mid-Missouri, Caterpillar in Booneville, Hitachi in Jefferson City, some of these other places, and how they could have the potential to be affected. And then we look at the billion-dollar corporations in Missouri that are directly, boom, right off the top, 15% extra taxes. It's going to affect people. I also think this is interesting, because whenever we talk about hiring of a police chief, for wherever it is, it's a big story, and who do we want? And even though we don't vote or anything, the people don't actually go and vote like you're voting for a sheriff. It's always, well, we want this guy, we want that guy, and usually it's fairly passionate arguments, even in street talk, even at the coffee shops, even at the Grand Cafe in Jeff City. It's all, but not so much so with the fire chief. You know what I mean? We're just kind of like, yeah. whoever it is it's going to be. We don't. It's not something we get that passionate about. It seems like
there aren't different schools of thought of how to fight fires or how to treat people who are injured or in crashes, how to respond to those things. Whereas for some of those other positions, like if we're talking about a police chief, like there are people who have different opinions on what policing should be like and things like that. But fire chief, I mean, it's like keep people safe.
A little bit more cut and dried.
Yeah.
So not a whole lot of room.
It's not like it's not to say that the job's not hard. It's an incredibly hard thing to do, but it's something that, all of us have kind of a consensus on, how to do it.
Hannah, the producer here, is engaged to a firefighter.
I am.
And the only thing I think cooler than being engaged to a firefighter is being engaged to a volunteer firefighter, somebody who not only wants to fight fires, but somebody who does it on a volunteer basis, because that can cause you a lot of stress too.
Oh, yeah. When I know that he is in a burning building or on the side of a highway working a crash, it's not a great feeling because I don't get to hear from him until he's done with the call, obviously. So I do tend to get nervous when he's on calls.
Like if you call, Hannah, not right now. I'm fighting a fire. Not right now. Call me back later. 874-9390. We do want to get into because we're running out of time before we get into the Gary Nolan show here on 93.9 The Eagle. We've got to fact check something that one of us said on the show this morning. We always try to be as honest and as open as we can.
Jeez, Andy.
Yeah. No, and it wasn't the news guy, or was it? We're going to find out here shortly. But first, we want to chat with Gary. Gary, welcome into the show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, Brandon. You had a story earlier about St. Charles police, if they saw like a taillight that was out or something, minor infraction, they pulled them over, and instead of giving them a ticket, they gave them a voucher.
Yeah.
And I guess the libertarian in me is, where does that going to stop? Are we actually next going to start changing the taillight for them? And I had the same reaction. Randy Tobler had a story about backpacks for kids going back to school and contain peanut butter and, other basics. I guess I just, I have as big a heart as the next person, but why are we asking, or why are we doing things for people when they should be responsible adults and just do it for themselves? I just don't understand that.
I hear what you're saying. I think sometimes just to do something nice. Now, I will say, because I kind of hear what you're saying, here's one thing I don't like, and I don't know if anybody's done it here in mid-Missouri, but around Thanksgiving, people get pulled over for going the speed limit, and they give you a turkey. That I don't like. What I do like about this, especially where oftentimes these programs, they're funded with private donations. So in other words, my tax dollars, or it's donated by the business. So in other words, they're getting these vouchers because the kindness of a mechanic is going to do this. I think a couple of things here. It's a good PR move. Number two, it's just, it's helpful. Nothing wrong with being nice once in a while, but I get the libertarian slant on what you're saying.
Well, I appreciate what they're doing also. It's just that I always question what the motives are. And I also question where the money comes from. If it's coming from a private source, that's great. But usually it's coming from some sort of public source. And I personally hate contributing to that kind of stuff because I'm of the opinion people should take care of the situations that they're in, however they can.
Gary, I agree with you 100%. I don't like my money. If I want to, for example, if I want to help the homeless, it should not be my tax money going to do that. I want to contribute my money to that. I'm with you 100%. But this are businesses. They donate they give vouchers for, hey, we'll replace a taillight or whatever. And as I understand it, especially with this one in St. Charles, not just you're going to get pulled over a lot of times. Some police departments are different because the national news outlets and the way they have vilified people in law enforcement. Some people in law enforcement, they're afraid to even pull you over anymore. What if the person I pull over is black? And you know what happens there. So they're not just pulling people over to give out vouchers. They're going to pull you over, either give you a ticket because your taillight's not working, or they're going to give you a warning. Or in I think St. Charles, the very first the first municipality in Missouri to do this, or they're going to give you a voucher to get it fixed. And then, I don't know, is there some decision there? Like, if I'm a cop say I'm patrolling the streets of Fulton, and I pull, and there's somebody without a tail light, and they're driving a Lexus QX80 SUV with seating for 7 and leather interior and TV screens all over the place. Am I going to ticket that person? They can afford it. They're driving a Lexus QX80. Or do I give that person the voucher? Or if I pull over somebody driving a 1979 Ford Pinto hatchback, am I going to give them a ticket? Or I'm going to stereotype it might be a bigger challenge for them to get their taillight fixed. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to think real hard on it and just appreciate the nice gesture on what they are doing. And it's good for police officers. Here's the other reason they need to do it, because of what national news outlets have done to law enforcement over the past 3, 5, 10 years. The way they have vilified law enforcement. Even locally, you look at the Columbia Police Department, they have a hard time filling the slots they have. You have people retiring early, because what national news outlets have done. They have hated law enforcement. You have cities like Seattle defunding the police. You have all these cities, and you can look at where these cities are and who runs them and what has happened with crime in those cities. Those are really... they're just facts. That's all they are. Welcome into the show. All right, we've got to run something through the Ministry of Truth, something that was said here on the show. We got to thank, I was going to say we have to thank a listener for pointing this out to us, but actually we have to thank several listeners for pointing this out to us.
I can't believe Andy screwed up like that.
Yeah, man. The news guy, we were just bragging about all the awards that he has won for his journalistic work over the years.
Take one away.
And take one away. And how did what were we even talking? How did we get onto the conversation?
We were talking about dumb criminals.
Oh, the local dude several years ago who went into a place and he was trying to rob the place with some granny panties draped over his head. And the awesome still screenshot from that video. Was that Centralia?
No, it wasn't Centralia, but it was local to the area.
So anyhow, we were telling the story.
And I said that the gentleman was armed with a .22 shotgun. And I got called out on that immediately.
By
obviously,
several people.
Yeah, obviously a .22 is not a shotgun. And I goofed up a little bit.
So we wanted to correct that. We wanted to run that through the Ministry of Truth, not a .22 shotgun.
You know, at least I didn't get caught on a hot mic this morning.
What do you mean?
Some people.
Oh, what did Andy do on a hot mic?
No, not Andy.
All right. It's 8:49. Should we do that in leftovers?
We can.
All right. We're going to do leftovers coming up about 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com, where you can listen live anytime. Jetting, one of the big things they do, they clean out lagoons. They clean out septic tanks. And I think even the bigger thing, it's not just cleaning out lagoons and septic tanks, it's the maintenance on this stuff. Just like you get maintenance on your work or you get maintenance on your body. You go to the doctor, get everything checked out. You get the maintenance on your teeth done, hopefully a couple of times a year. It's the same thing with your bad comparison, Rathert. You get the maintenance done on your septic tanks. And here's one of the things. When you contact the folks at Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting to do, like, for example, the maintenance on your septic tank, really the big bonus for you is that can help prevent problems in the future. Because, you know, when your yard gets to being squishy at the big old family Labor Day cookout, it's all squishy because you got problems with the septic tank. That stinks. Literally and figuratively. So get a maintenance program for your lagoons or septic tanks, pro-pumping.com.
Opinions on social issues? We throw those around too. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Late fees.
Member of the state legislature. This is it. So in any case,
Nancy Pelosi being heckled with the "Let's Go Branden." Of course, that was the thing. NASCAR racer was Brandon Brown almost a year ago. That's been the whole thing with the crowd. They were saying FJB, F Joe Biden, and the reporter. I still think all these national news outlets have it wrong. They said she misheard what they were saying. The reporter did. She's the one who in effect came up with the phrase, "Let's go, Branden." She knows what the crowd was saying. She knows they were saying FJB. She was on live TV and actually did a very good, quick job of saying, they're saying, "Let's go, Branden," because that's the name of the NASCAR driver that she was talking to. Anyhow, I bring it up. So now the White House, they feel a little emboldened because of some victories recently for Joe. They're going all in on dark Branden. I'll hold up a picture here that you can, if you're watching on our YouTube channel. But they're like trying to put out these really cool memes of the Dark Branden meme. Dark Branden is back, and it's Biden like with lasers in his eyes and the
way it printed on your high tech black and white copy paper there kind of looks like blackface makeup.
It does. I better be careful. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
All right, let's open up the fridge and see what we have in leftovers this morning. And I want to fact check KSDK, the NBC affiliate in St. Louis. The KSDK affiliate, we were talking about this Lights On program that they are doing in St. Charles, where they get vouchers. People donate vouchers. And let's say you get pulled over for a broken taillight, they'll give you a voucher to get it fixed instead of a ticket. And I do love that. Informed by the Columbia Police Department that they have something like this. It may not specifically be called the Lights On program, but they are doing something like this in the city of Columbia. So we've done 2 fact checks this morning. We did one on the NBC affiliate in St. Louis. You got anything for leftovers, Hannah?
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but you got caught on a hot mic this morning.
Uh-oh.
We were getting ready at right before 6 o'clock to go into the O'Reilly update.
Okay.
And you got caught on a hot mic.
Coming up at 6:03. O'Reilly. Did you catch that?
I did. I did.
Let me hear that again. Coming up at 6:03. O'Reilly.
What were you doing?
Well, I was frustrated with myself because within a span of minutes, listen, I got a lazy mouth. I stumble over my words a lot anyway. But I was like uber consistent with that this morning.
It was before 6 a.m. Yeah. You get a pass.
It was. So our show comes on at 5:30, so you can start listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri starting at 5:30. But it was just really bad. I couldn't talk, and I was getting frustrated, and I went and the thing going, blah, 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 blah. Gary Nolan Show is next. Blah, 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 blah.